Welcome back to day 2 of our softcore run. I got my spreadsheet open here, and we have our polls that we were projecting, but we're gonna have to rethink this a little bit. I forgot about the fact that we have that Warbear induction oven, so we can most likely get 2 Gruyere egg omelets today. So let's just go ahead and start with pulling a spooky mushroom and making that omelet and see if we do get 2 of them, in fact. And so we'll see what we have in storage. We have to buy one, so we'll go ahead and do that. If you don't have the Warbear induction oven, I highly recommend you get it. If you don't have an item of the month that you can put in that shed, that's better. It's fairly cheap. It's not in standard, so you can't get that benefit of getting double of everything when you're running standard runs, but you can get it if you're not running standard. So it's really useful with getting 2 of the Gruyere egg omelets. So we're going to go ahead and create that and see what we get. And we did in fact get 2 of them, so that's going to fill up 8 in our stomach. So we will need let's see, so that's 9 total, so that's another 6 that we'll need. That pumpkin pie is 3. I know we have a browser cookie here that is 4, so that's going to be actually too much to fit in our bellies. So we can just do 2 pumpkin pies. And then we'll move our booze up here, and let's reevaluate our booze real quick. We do have 2 thermoses of knob coffee, and that's 2 liver space, so that's going to leave us 12 that we actually need here. We also need a boost to item drops today, and Sacramental wine is good for that, and that's a 1 space liver item there. So we'll move that over here. And let's just go ahead and add things up. So we got the 2 thermoses, we got 1 Sacramental wine. Alright, so let's make a little formula here, 14 minus the sum of these things. And so that gives us 11 space. So our best bet would probably be 2 hacked Gibsons and then a perfect old fashioned. That's going to give us a full space there. So we'll remove that, and we'll move these up. And then we're going to need 2 flaskfuls of hollow. Our ninja gear, and we actually only need 2 ore. We already have 1, and then we have a pocket wish that we're going to use to get the gear for the war. And then we might do a bucket of wine as a nightcap later, depending on whether we get a psychotic train wine or not by the end of the day. So that's actually going to only take up 16 pulls, so we'll have a few left here for wiggle room. And so let's go ahead and get those out of the way. Alright, so let's see what booze we actually have already. Alright, we need 2 hacked Gibsons, so we'll pull those. And then we'll need to purchase if I can click the right button, a perfect old fashioned, and a Sacramental wine. And we might as well buy 2 because we're going to pull 1 tomorrow. Go back to our spreadsheet here, pull that, and pull 1 of those. It's going to take care of those. And let's see if we have the pumpkin pies. Yes, we do. Let's get 2 of those out of there. And if you recall, we have an extra, at least 1. Okay, yep, we have 2 milks of magnesium. That should get us through the rest of our run, so we don't need to pull any of that. We got both of those pulled. And let's get our flask full of hollow, 2 of those. And ninja gear. pull all of those. And let's see, we need linoleum ore. We don't have any, so we'll need to purchase some of that. We could use clovers to get it without using poles, but at this point I think we're better off saving the adventures and just doing poles, because we do have a little bit of room with our poles. So I've got those. Pocket Wish is going to cost us a little bit more than some of you may be comfortable spending, but it's not too bad. And it's definitely worth it if you don't have another way to summon a frat orc to get the gear. If you have Calculate the Universe, that's a real easy way to get it. Obviously, if you have access to a fax machine, you have more options there as well. But we don't have that, so we're going to use a Pocket Wish. Alright, so what we're going to want to do first is actually... let's just check our daily deeds here real quick. Is actually restore our MP. And let's just make sure that we can't boost it up a little bit more. And then we'll want to pull that, we'll want to do that wish and disintegrate the orc right away. That way if we need to disintegrate something else later on, we can. Because we will be through our turns of everything being yellow. Right, so it doesn't matter what gear we're wearing when we actually summon this orc, because we're just going to disintegrate it anyway. So alright, so we'll use the Pocket Wish, and I wish I was fighting a war pledge. Siege. Edge. Disintegrate. And there we go. We got the gear to do the war as a frat. So, yeah, we're going to do it as a frat, not a hippie. And you'll see why once we get there. Alright, so before we go any further, let's go ahead and swap our gear back to what we want to use for the duration, and then put on your ring of detect boring doors. And we'll hit the daily dungeon. Now, if you're trying to do a two-day run, since we're in softcore, you can do a 2-day run without items of the month. All you gotta do is just pull a daily dungeon malware and use that in combat while doing the daily dungeon, and that will get you an additional fat loot token that you can use to get your third key. Otherwise, normally you'll need to actually have like the deck, maybe Ginger City access is another way, and then the internet or the Game Informer Pro Dungeon magazine, that can get you another one as well. But the daily dungeon malware you can buy, and it's basically what you would get from the internet if you had it. But it's definitely usable in softcore because we can pull it. So we're going to run the daily dungeon first, and it should only take a few turns. We already set up those choices yesterday, so we shouldn't have to worry about that as long as you equip that ring of detect boring doors first. Alright, we got our token. Let's actually go ahead and buy our keys real quick. I'd recommend not leaving the tokens out, because you may end up running the maximizer and accidentally buying Boris's ring or Charlesberg's earring or Sneaky Pete's breath spray, and that's going to screw up your run a little bit. I've done it before, and basically when that happens, you have to go through getting the wand and zapping it to get the key that you need. It can be a bit of a headache. Alright, so we will put something else on in place of that ring. And then if you remember, we had the chasm, the crypt, and the trapper quest left to do Other than that, we need to hit level 10 as soon as we can so we can get the castle quest. So let's bust that ghost real quick. And then we also need to hit the forecastle to get the fledges. We're going to want to try to delay that if we can until we're ready to do the penultimate fantasy airship. That way the benefit of the Sacramento wine to our item drops we can use on the airship as well. But if we have to, we can always pull an amulet or a mohawk wig. We do have some room there to deal with. Alright, so let's go talk to the trapper. And you'll notice that we don't have to get the superhuman cold resistance to go up there. That's partially due to our gear. We got this hairpiece on fire, gives us 2 to cold res. We got Vicar's 2/2 that gives us another 1. And then this character actually have the couple of skills that give you passive cold resistance permed. So we got the actually we don't have the one from the Seal Clubber permed, but since we did a Class Act 2 and then dropped it, we have the skill anyway. That gives you +2 to cold resistance. And then the one that I recommend is these Elemental Planes resistances. The refusal to freeze is a +3. In fact, each of these are +3 to their respective elements. So those are good to get. Hypersane is not in standard, and a couple of these won't be in standard next year either. So they won't be helpful for standard runs, but in unrestricted runs, which is everything except for standard in the current challenge path, you'll have prismatic elemental resistance +3 for everything. It's really helpful. So I highly recommend you get those. That's Asbestos Heart, Hypersane, Olfactory Burnout, Refusal to Freeze, and Unoffendable. So that's Fire, Spooky, Stench, Cold, and Sleaze. Those are helpful. And then each class, of course, has a +2 elemental resistance that's good to get. And it looks like we have... Actually, the Accordion Thief doesn't, because there's only 5 elements, but looks like we don't have... Which one are we missing? We got Cold, we got Hot, we got Stench, and we got Sleaze. The Turtle Tamer has one for spookiness. That's what it is. We're missing that one. So we don't have that. That's going to make Abu Peak slightly more difficult than it would be otherwise, but we'll be fine, I think. So just a little aside there without getting too far on a tangent. So let's go ahead and head on up to the peak. We're going to want to heal first. And let's check our monster level. We're at +88. And we'll have to fight a couple Yetis here, and then we'll fight Roar. If meat is a problem for you, you can run like a leprechaun, or if you have a half a purse, we could pull a half a purse and equip that and run that, and that's going to make us some meat here. But we're doing okay. We got 17,000. So take the trapper back to, or take the fur back to the trapper rather. And we should have some dense meat stacks that we can auto sell here. Alright, so the chasm here, we're going to end up having to farm for parts here. The guide is going to tell you over here how many you need. We could clover for them too. We're going to need to keep a clover from today. We have 2 clovers. We're going to need to keep one of those clovers for the castle to get the parts for the wand. The other one we can go ahead and use here, or we can save it for Abu Peak in case we don't get enough clues dropped before we hit 90%, and that's actually what I'm going to do, is save it for that. So we'll hit the logging camp, and we need 7 fasteners, 5 lumber, and your item drops shouldn't really matter a whole lot here, so I wouldn't worry too much unless they're just totally abysmal. Alright, let's actually go ahead and swap over to our Flaming Gravy Fairy. And let's get the blessing to help our familiar level up a little bit faster. Alright, so now we need 4 more of each. Ooh, here we go. Smutwork Pervert. If you encounter this guy, kill him, and then you'll get this keepsake box. That's going to give you 5 of each. And that should allow you to complete the bridge. Alright, so then talk to the Highland Lord. For the oil peak, we're going to want to have our monster level about 100. And you can see here the guide is going to recommend that you run at 100. And it's going to tell you how many turns you have. We're going to need to have our plus item good enough that we'll get 12 bubbling crudes during the course. You could go to Twin Peak first and see if you happen to get the dress pants from one of the enemies there, but just be careful because you're going to need that jar of oil in order to complete Twin Peak. So let's see what options we have here for monster level. Not a whole lot. We could use those and get up to 98, but I'm not going to do that. We could see if we can pull and buy something. Alright, so we do have a carnivore button. We'll actually pull that and equip it. And that's going to take us up to 103, and that's probably a good idea for us to keep using that for a while so that we can level up a little bit faster anyway. So then we'll hit Oil Peak, and you can do these turns manually, or you can let Mafia do them. Just as always, if you let Mafia do them, make sure you keep an eye on your HP. And the guide is telling us we've got about 4 turns to go. So let's just set it at 5 and put a jar of oil as our goal. And we'll keep an eye on those bubbling crudes. Alright. We just need 2 more. So 1 more. There we go. Next, for Twin Peak, I recommend keeping the item drops decent and doing your encounters as low as you can. So let's see what we got. We can get Bram's Choker. That's actually probably a good idea. It's going to give us some extra moxie as well. And so let's actually make a note of what we've done here. We got a carnivore button. And we'll do Bram's Choker. You could pull the duonoculars. I think the Bram's Choker is going to be a better bet for us, just because it's going to give us a percentage increase to Moxie as well. And then let's hit Twin Peak. Whoops, wrong button. You don't want to hit again, because that's just going to repeat the oil peak. At least we got some stats from that. Okay, so keep an eye on your guide over here. It's going to tell you for Twin Peak what you need, and it looks like we're already satisfying all the requirements there, so it's not warning us about any of it. But you need to have stench resistance, and you need to have a decent amount of item drops, and then you need to have high enough initiative to catch yourself. And if you get the rusty hedge trimmers, use them. It'd also be a solid pull is pulling a few of those. We have a few spots here, but I'm going to save those for now. So we need to have at least 4 stench resist. We got 6, so we're good to go with that. If you aren't good to go with that, you'll want to get something to increase your stench resistance, whether it's a buff or you pulling an item, or you could use like the veil from the Knob Goblin quest. For item drops, you need at least 50%. If you are struggling with that, really struggling, remember your familiar doesn't count towards it. You can see I'm at 177 according to Mafia, but this is only considering 135 because this Gravy Fairies is not helping us. We got the light that never goes out that I'm equipping. I recommend you use that. That's going to help you right there. That's enough item drop to get you through. But if that wasn't an option, the Friar Brother Burrito gives you a boost to food drops, and that will help you out with the item drops here for the pantry. So you could do that. And then, of course, the requirement for the jar of oil, you need to do the oil peak first for that one. And if you have the ability to banish things, it may be worth banishing the other creatures here that aren't the little hedge monsters that you get the rusty hedge trimmers from. The Bowman Twins here you can get dress pants from, and those can help you with the oil peak if you're really struggling. Alright, I'm going to give it one more. Okay, there we go. And the guide is telling us we probably have 2.5 turns left. Alright, hedge trimmers. And you need 40% initiative here to catch yourself. We got 55. And you can track your initiative on Mafia here. What's going to help you with that is the passives, perming the passives that help your initiative. There's a few different ones, Disco Bandit and Accordion Thief. The Accordion Thief, you have the Celerity, and we actually didn't cast that, so that wasn't considered there. But the Disco Bandit has a skill also. It is overdeveloped sense of self-preservation. Gives you plus 20 to initiative. And then if you were to use the Canticle of Celerity, that's going to give you another 20. And then you have Suspicious Gaze is an expression that you get from the Accordion Thief. That's another 20. You could use that. Speaking of which, let's make sure we have a facial expression going. And we do. Oh, we had the Suspicious Gaze. Let's actually switch over to Knowing Smile. That's going to boost our experience a little bit. Alright, so a lot of people are going to tell you to save a boo peak for the end of your run. You can do that, but I recommend, as long as you have enough item drops, to go ahead and at least accumulate the Abu clues. We need 3 clues, and we need to get down to 90% hauntedness. If we're at 90% hauntedness and we have 3 clues, that's going to be enough to clear it out the rest of the way, if we survive the clues through the whole thing. And make sure you keep an eye on your HP here. Plus 3. The Sacramento Wine's going to give us 50 adventures of the plus item drop, so we may want to just use that now. We'll have to unaffect one of our songs. Alright, so we got 50 turns of plus items, so we're going to do a boo peak real quick and then we'll head over and try to finish our fledges. So we have 2 more turns here until we hit 90% hauntedness. If we don't get any Abu clues through that, then we'll have to use our clover. And yeah, we're definitely going to have to use our clover. and we actually didn't get any at all. So let's use a clover. Adventure there one more time. And we got 2 clues at least. Now, let's put on our swashbuckling get up. And we actually want to be at plus combat, so let's take that choker back off. Switch our mood over to plus combat. And then head over to the forecastle. As you can see, the guide recommends running at least 234% item drop. We're at 219. It's going to be kind of close. Banish the chatty pirate. If you get the clingy pirate, use the cocktail napkin to get rid of him or her. And then the cleanly pirate, you fight him and use the rigging shampoo. We need the creamy pirate, and we get the ball polish, and then you polish the balls. And we need the curmudgeonly pirate, and hopefully we'll get the mop. There we go. Alright, one more time, and there's our fledges. Alright, so let's head over to the council, pick up that level 10 quest, and we're going to use that bean that we got earlier from Yellow Ring, that bean bat, and then we're going to swap out our gear. Alright, so now we want to have our combats lower. We may want to just go ahead and put on the crown. Swap our mood back. And let's see what our item drops end up being if we switch. Okay, yeah, we'll keep that Flaming Gravy Fairy for now. Alright, so head up the beanstalk. And we are at -20. Alright, so might as well pick that up. You can banish the irritating series of random encounters if you want. That one's not really that big of a deal, but the one you do definitely want to banish, what I recommend anyway, is the protagonist, because you can get the amnesia effect from it, and that really sucks. What we're hoping for is we want to get the quiet healer and the burly sidekick, so we can get the amulet of extreme plot significance and the mohawk wig. You can get the titanium assault umbrella, and that's going to help you on the ground floor as well, but the amulet's better because you can get to the correct choice from every route that way. Alright, so we're in luck. We got the amulet first time that we fought the healer. So the first time you get this random lack of an encounter, you may have noticed that I went down to the head, and that gets you the little model airship. That's going to help us with the top floor. So you definitely want to grab that model airship. It's the bottom choice the first time you go to this one. Every time after that, I recommend you investigate the crew quarters and do a combat so you can get stats. And we have to burn 5 turns of delay repeatedly to get each of the immateria. So the way it works is, to get the first one, we got to burn 5 turns of delay. To get the second one, we have to burn 10 turns total. So it's 10 turns total regardless. It doesn't start counting the next delay after you get the first immateria. So you can, let's say if your encounters weren't low enough, you may not get all the immateria each time that you burn the delay. And you may end up conceivably getting all 4 of them in a row after you've burned all 20 turns of delay. That can happen. So if you don't get one after the first 5 turns, don't sweat it. You can still pick it up later on. It's not going to hurt your delay for the other ones. Alright, so hopefully we got another amulet. There's that protagonist. Batter up that little turd. hopefully we'll be getting, there we go, Burly Sidekick. Now if you have Olfaction, that's definitely going to open up some avenues here for you that you can do to manipulate the flow of the encounters. I recommend using Olfaction on the healer first if you encounter her first, or the Sidekick if you encounter him first. Whichever one you get first. Just use Olfaction until you get the item that we need. Once you get it, use one of those soft Echo Green eye drop antidotes that you'll be picking up here on the airship to unaffect it, so you can use it on the next one once you encounter them. And we did not get a Mohawk wig from him our first encounter, and we're actually getting pretty close to the end of this airship, so we may have to pull a Mohawk wig. We could chance it and just hope that we encounter either the Goth or the Steam Giant. But if we do that, then we'll probably hit the Punk Giant first. There's another Burly Sidekick. Still no Mohawk wig. Bastard. Give me your wig. Alright, so we've burnt all our delay. So now we're just waiting for that last Immateria to show up. These titanium assault umbrellas are kind of nice for elemental resistance, so picking up a couple of those is kind of a good idea, especially for a Boo Peak. There's that last one, and there's Sid. Alright, before we hit the castle, assemble our other clover, and then hit the basement there, and confirm that you do in fact want to use that clover. And that's going to give us all the parts for the wand, which we'll need to defeat the sorceress. So let's go ahead and build that wand real quick. There we go. Now what I do here is actually just go ahead and put the amulet on. You can get a choice in the fitness non-combat that lets you cause that adventure to repeat. I prefer just to put it on and take care of it the first time. You can see here the guide is telling us we have probably about 4 turns, approximately 4 turns left here on the basement level. But you never know how the RNG is going to hit you. Alright, let's go ahead and go bust this ghost in the gallery real quick. Alright, head back over to the basement, and we probably should have restored our HP first. That was a rookie mistake. Oh, you know what? Knowing Smile. Why did I even put that on there? For some reason I was thinking I was an accordion thief. Let's switch it back to Suspicious Gaze. That's why we were using that. If we had the skill from the Turtle Tamer Patient Smile, that's going to help us get more muscle experience. Knowing Smile gives you more moxie. Alright, so this is really taken more than 4 turns. Something you can do here is actually set your choice adventures for the basement to show in browser, and then run it, and it will prompt you once you hit the any of the non-combats. And depending on which one we get, I will show you what I'm talking about with the all routes leading to the fitness. There we go. Alright. So we get the one for the furry, and you can see if we crawl through the heating duct, that's going to take us to the neckbeard choice. If you had the umbrella on, that would actually open up the ground floor. So if you get this one and you have the amulet on and you don't have the umbrella on, crawl through the duct, get the neckbeard choice. Neckbeard choice is the one where you need the massive dumbbell to open the ground floor. But it has the fitness choice here at the bottom by crawling through the heating vent yet again. And that gives us the fitness choice, and check out the mirror with the amulet equipped, and that will open up the ground floor. Make sure you take that amulet back off. And we want to keep our combat encounters down, but we're not going to care as much about the item drops at this moment, so let's switch back to our barrel for the regen. And then what you can do if you're lazy is just go ahead and select electric bony knife as your goal. Do 11 turns. It's going to take 11 turns on the ground floor to open up the top floor. And then set your choices here for the foodie as electric bony knife, then skip. Possibility as skip. Procrastination as very overdue library book, then skip. And Renaissance as skip. And set it for 11 turns and let it go. And if we happen to pick up that bony knife, we'll know, because it's going to tell us the goal's been satisfied. Be careful with the procrastination giant. You can get an effect during that fight, especially when you're fighting as a seal clubber. Yeah. Maybe better just to run the adventures ourselves. See, that's the effect I'm talking about right there. You'll figure out what this does later. And that's where you get those messages there where you try to attack and it says, oh, you'll attack later. Let's do it later. So what I recommend doing, and yeah, it looks like we lost that effect, is actually banishing him, if that's an option for you. Really struggling with the MP. Let's see. Yeah, let's get rid of that leash and the Rage of the Reindeer. So I just removed a couple things from my mood so that we're not burning through our MP as rapidly. Oh, looks like we need to use our flaskfuls of hollow as well. Okay, very overdue library book. The reason why I recommend getting that is, as you can see when we use it, we get a decent amount of little substats here. So it's worth it. The other ones you want to skip. Aside from the knife, you definitely want the knife, unless you have like Garbage Nova or something. They'll allow you to deal with that wall of bones when we get to the sorcerer. So we need a Mohawk wig. Let's see if we actually have one. We do. So we'll pull that. Let's add that to our list. Alright. Equip it. And then head to the top floor. I recommend you don't automate these turns just to be safe. So we have that model airship and we have the Mohawk wig on, so it doesn't matter which non-combat we get, we can finish the quest either way. So we'll see what happens, but you'll see what I'm talking about once we get there. Why did he not have that equipped? That's why we weren't getting enough regen. Alright, so if you get the Punk Rock Giant non-combat, it's pretty straightforward. You just get us attention to finish the quest. If you got the Raver choice, there's a choice to switch to the Punk. So you'd want to do that. If you get the Steam Giant, you just do the first option, Harumph and Disdain, with the model airship that finishes the quest. If you got the Goth Giant, you use the option to get you to the Steam Giant. So we now want to return to the top floor. We don't want to move on just yet. And we need to get another non-combat. And now it doesn't matter at all which one we get, because the Punk will have a different option now to let us choose the Steam Punk Giant. And what we're looking for is we need to get the little steam-powered rocket ship so that we can reach the hole in the sky to farm for the star key. There we go. Alright, so as you can see, the Goth Giant has this Gimme Steam option. And now this time, if we had picked this first option, we would have finished the quest originally, but now we want to investigate the whirligigs and gimcrackery and get that steam-powered model rocket ship. Right, so at this point, we can head over to the hole in the sky and farm for the star key. But first, I'm going to go bust this ghost real quick. Alright, so if you happen to get a lot of stars and lines and you still haven't gotten a star chart from the astronomer, that does happen once in a while to me, and you're in Softcore, you can always pull a star chart and that will let you finish the key. Otherwise, we can also, there's no choices that you have to set here for the hole in the sky, so all you got to do is just pick the star key and then run the turns. And of course, keep an eye on your HP. Alright, so we got 4 lines. We're at 3 stars. We have the star chart. 5 stars. 6 lines. Pretty close. Alright, we just need a couple, maybe one more turn. There we go. Alright. Alright, so we're still a ways away from level 11. We need about 1,000 substats. That's okay. We'll head over to the council and turn in that quest. And let's go to the distant woods. And you'll want to visit the crackpot and get the continuum transfunctioner. And then equip that. And then head to the inexplicable door. So what we're concerned with here is getting enough white pixels and things to make white pixels to make the digital key. You could farm here for red pixel potions if you want, but nobody uses those to fight the shadow anymore because it's basically a waste of time unless you just happen to get enough pixels to do that. Because when you do the war, the level 12 war, the Hippie and Frat war, you're going to get enough stuff to get plenty of gauze garters or filthy poultices, filthy polti, to fight the shadow. You're only going to need 4 or 5 of them. It's a lot easier than trying to farm for red pixel potions. The only time you really have to is like in an emergency where you messed up and you accidentally used your gauze garters to heal before you fought the shadow, which that does happen once in a while. If you have olfaction, you can use it on the blooper. Even better is if you have a way to copy monsters and you have access to effects, or you can pull another pocket wish. You could wish to fight a ghost and then copy that. The ghost gives you 5 white pixels per battle, so you'd only need to fight 6 of those to get your key. So we can keep doing this manually, or we can go ahead and just automate it. And I'll throw 11 turns into it. And see, I just put that carnivore button back on to get our monster level back up to 100. And hopefully we should get the digital key pretty quickly here. Alright, so didn't quite make it. We have 16 white pixels. Let's see how many we can actually make. We can make 11 more. So that gives us 27, so pretty close. We'll just do a few more turns. Come on, baby. No. We need one more. Wow. Wow. Okay, there we go. So we got the digital key, and we're pretty close to level 11. I'm going to take a short break here, and then we'll pick this back up in just a few minutes here. So stay tuned for part 2 of day 2 shortly.